tonight with Justin. I'm honored to have him on as a guest. And, you know, we have a YouTube channel, Hard Intentions. We also have a website where we sell our merchandise, which is hardintentions.com. And Justin has bought a few things from us, T-shirts and a hat and a couple other things. And he messaged me, and we communicated, and I decided that it would be a good interview to have Justin on our program. How you doing, Justin?
I'm doing good, Mitch. I appreciate you having me on too, by the way.
It's my pleasure, man. I think Justin has a message that people need to hear. You know, he's a combat veteran, he's a Marine, and so let's get started.
All right.
So your name's Justin. So let's see. You're from Texas now? Were you born in Texas? You raised in Texas? Are you like a Texan or?
Oh, yes, sir. So back in the good old age of 1987, which I don't know, we all know what probably we were all doing, but in 87 when I came about, I was born in Andrews, Texas, right up the road from me, and I live in Odessa right now, out here in the oil patch. I was born in the 80s oil boom.
So you're born and raised in Texas?
Born and raised in Texas. I grew up on a farm in Plainview, working hard, and
yeah,
I was too small of a guy in high school to play football, so I rode bulls.
All right. So you're born in Texas, so like you have a like what kind of family life did you have like?
Well, when I was 3, my parents divorced.
All right.
My dad had his own history, and I live in the place where I was born right now, in the Halsey Acres right here in Odessa, Texas.
Right.
But you know, my parents divorced when I was 3. I grew up with my mom and granddad and my grandparents on a AQHA American quarter horse ranch, working quarter horses. You know, always working either cattle, horses, and then we moved out to the farms and grew up working on a farm. You know, making modules in the module builder, stripping the cotton when it came, and changing water, man. And the guys out there who know what them fields are like, they know what checking and changing water is, man.
So did you have much contact with your dad growing up?
Yeah, you know, they divorced. He was gone for a while, but you know, there's nothing I can say bad about that, man. You know, everybody has their own. Everybody gets their own cards dealt in life. How they play them, that's their own. You know, I think it took me to become an adult, going through some of the things I did, to actually realize the difficulties he had. So, you know, there's no blame or hard animosity there. He's a good friend of mine. He's a great guy to be around.
Okay.
But the man I call my father today, his name is Alex Ball. He's one of the greatest men that I've ever met. If I could be one of his ugliest pairs of shoes and I could feel that one, I'll be a pretty good guy.
All right. So as you're growing up, you know, when you were young, you know, who's the biggest influence on you as far as the form, you know, what form in your young life, you know?
So the biggest influence would be my 5'2", what you want to do, mama. She didn't take no banana peel from nobody, man. She didn't take no junk from nobody.
That's right.
But if you know, she had her I have an older brother and I have a younger sister.
Right.
And she had our backs. You know, she raised us right. We didn't always have everything we wanted, but we had everything we needed. You know, I had food in my belly, and she worked hard. But she would stand up for us. But you damn right, we better be in the right, because if we didn't, my mama was coming at us, and that's who taught me to stand up for what I believe in. Right or wrong, I'm never going to back down. It comes from that hard head in which I get my thoughts and feelings.
So you got some pretty good values growing up.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, sir. I was born up with that. I wasn't raised in a church, but I was raised with God in my heart. Yes, sir.
All right. So it's all about, we say, like, you know, God, country, family, all that kind of stuff.
Yes, sir. Well, right. It's God and family. You know, my country's always came. You know, I'm waiting for the country to give back a little bit today. You know, everybody's been talking about these years of what we can give to our country. I think these young men and women who have sacrificed and served this country, I think we've given enough. And I think it's almost about time, after this time in war, we ask you and we ask the country, what are you going to give back to us?
Right.
Because we keep giving and giving and giving, and we'll give some more.
Yeah.
But
so, like, before you got into the military, Was like, you know, the country a big thing, like, you know, America, Texas, like,
you know, so I was a sophomore in high school when September 11th happened.
right,
And that was my click in the head of what I was going to do. I knew what I was going to do from that point forward.
right.
And you know, I didn't know what patriotism was. I didn't know, really, I didn't really know a direction until that day. And an older friend of mine that I call a brother, his name is Landon Rankin. He's down in Georgetown, Texas, recruiting right now. But he was a big influence, my best friend and my brother, you know, and he went to the Marine Corps. He was 2 years ahead of me.
Right.
And I said, man, if he's got the balls to do it, then there's nowhere else I could have gone. Anything less, I couldn't have been satisfied, because, I mean, where he goes is I had to go.
So September 11th was like a kick for you.
That was the pick.
You decided you're going to join the military.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so how did your family react to that?
You know, my mom was all for it. She, you know, she knew I was a little different from my brother and sister. You know, they were very, they were very safe players. And I was always out there doing wild stuff. You know, pushing everything to the edge. My mom was actually real supportive. I remember giving her the call. I was 17 years old when the day I turned 17. I think it was 2 weeks after my birthday.
Right.
I was at the recruiting office, and I called her. I said, hey, you need to get down here and sign some papers, because I needed her parental consent at 17.
Right.
But I got her parental consent, and she's very happy about it. You know, I think, you know, when I made that decision as a young kid, that's exactly how I made it. I was a young kid. I never really knew what that was going to carry, not just the military aspect, but what everything that I was going to be involved in, what I'd see young men my age involved in.
Right.
And I think seeing other men get hurt in that process is that's where a lot of things had come from me is.
So did you have any of the men in your family, were they in the military?
My grandfather was in the military in World War II. My great uncle was in the landing of Iwo Jima. My grandma would tell me stories about him, and it used to, I mean, it paralyzed me thinking about how these men would come home, and to know that one day I would be coming home, not like them, but in the same boots.
Yeah, Iwo Jima, man, that's.
Dude, I mean, what's wild is my great uncle was in the same military unit I was in, and I never knew it until about 3 years into the military. I saw one of his old pictures.
Yeah.
He had a third tracks patch on.
Right.
I'm a tracker, man. Yes. You know, amphibious vehicles will go on water and on land. I'm that guy. I'm the R7 crew chief, and I'm also a machine gunner. So I was always always behind heavy machine guns.
So you signed up and you went to boot camp right away, or?
No, so I signed up, and I signed up and I came around. I went to boot camp September 5th, and then I graduated December 2nd of 04.
All right, so where'd you go to boot camp at?
Camp Pendleton, California, or not Camp Pendleton, San Diego, but I was stationed at Camp Pendleton. But I'm a Hollywood Marine, man. I'm a Hollywood Marine. I love it out there.
Camp Pendleton, that's my area where I grew up, San Diego.
Yep. I hated boot camp there, man, because every time, I mean, you'd be there for 3 weeks hating your life, wanting to scratch your face, and all you could hear is these airplanes going home, coming in. Everybody's having a good time in those airplanes, but you're just down there hating your life.
Yeah. So how long were you in boot camp?
Boot camp's 3 months long.
How'd you like, I mean, the
so
boot camp
I went into boot camp, you know, it was, you know, I kept having this, I kept putting it in my head that everybody puts their pants on 2 legs at a time unless you're just good and jump in them all at once. So I try to keep that in mind, and also kept in mind that I didn't understand that when I went there how weak-minded people I was around. Holy crap. I did grow up in a little bit of a tougher time because, dude, these guys were crying over we had to wash windows. These guys are crying and pissing and moaning.
Really?
So I just went into the attitude of, hey, we're here to get something done. We're here for a different purpose.
Yeah.
And you need to quit trying to serve yourself. And I think that was one of the biggest clickers in my head is, oh man, it's no longer about me. It's no longer about me. And then
So
when you
tell me, some of the guys in boot camp with you had like a sense of entitlement or what?
Oh yeah. Oh man.
You mean like city guys?
You know, a lot of these guys, they're going to talk about boot camp, how they're with these tough guys. Man, I was with a bunch of pussies. I tell you that. I mean, I think we had 2 or 3, you know, actually tough guys, maybe prior service.
Yeah.
But dude, I'll be honest, man, the Marine Corps boot camp is making these wet, moldy little girls, and they're making men out of them. Because honestly, you know, even when I was a recruiter, my last 2 years, I mean, these kids, I mean, young men, you cannot come in as a young man wanting to be in a grown man's club wearing skinny jeans.
Yeah.
Get that bedazzled shit off your ass, man. I
Yeah.
don't need to be reading your juicy booty or whatever you're trying to put out there, but you know, dress like a young man. And that's the thing that was going on. And when I went to boot camp, I just saw a lot of weakness, and I saw a lot of no heart. I mean, just no heart for themselves. You know, just have a little bit of pride in yourself. How can I mean, do not let, I mean, if you want to cry, I get it. I mean, we earn our tears. I've earned every tear that comes out of my eye, and I'll still cry them because I'm still cashing in on all of my deposits.
Right.
But shit, man, when you ain't got nothing to cry about, what are you crying for? We're here to get.
Well, you know, the modern
cities,
idea what a young man should be, and then, you know, Texans and, you know, some other guys in the Marines idea what a young man's supposed to be is kind of different.
A young man is supposed to be someone who knows how to say yes sir, no sir, you're welcome, thank you, and knows how to open that door for that lady or whoever's coming in after them. You know, I mean, I can't stand not seeing men not open their women's door.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yet they have the vehicle started before the ladies in the car. That's not right. That's not right.
Yeah. So, once you guys completed boot camp, what was your preparation for where you were going to head off to after that? I mean, did they give you a little time to go home and then go off?
So I did this little dirty scheme because of my brother my buddy had already been to boot camp, so I knew how it kind of worked. So I timed my boot camp time just right to where I graduated December 2nd. Well, they're not going to really be pushing people out to this training units during the holiday right there. So I got to go home for 30 days after boot camp, when usually people only get to go home for 10. So I got to stay all through the holidays. And when I came back, I went to MCT, Marine Corps Combat Training. It's for non-infantry Marines, even though we're all infantry, whatnot, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
It's a non-infantry course because I was an Amtracker. So it's pretty much combat training, you know, door-to-door training. You're going to do nav courses, night nav courses with, you know, your compass only, a bunch of, you know, basic skills that you can't really finesse in boot camp, but there's some really true basic skills of
specialized
navigation.
training.
Yeah. And get you ready for real fleet operations.
All right. So how long did that last?
So we did that. That was about, man, I think it was 3 or 4 weeks long. And then I went over to Area 31, which is Camp Del Mar. Camp Del Mar, 3rd Tracks. I went to the Amphibious Assault Schools unit there. But I got stationed right next door to them at 3rd Tracks, right at the jetty. So, man, I'll be honest, when my stationed units, when I was on Camp Pendleton, I lived the life, man. I loved it. 2-hour lunches, and I'd go jet ski in the jetty. Shit, I had a stand-up jet ski. I'd always go ride. We'd always go do something, man. Play volleyball. But it was good. Honestly, the Marine Corps experience when I was in country here at home, it was always good. I mean, I had a good experience. I think the only thing that came bad from it is seeing how the people could go in there and get so institutionalized and put in their brain that they're so much better than somebody. That's where I got my distaste for the Marine Corps, and how if a man slips up, they try to take his honor immediately. And I just never agreed with that.
So once you're done with all your training, where'd you shipped out of the country? Where did you head off to?
So my first deployment, when I first left, I went to I actually augmented to a unit, Charlie 111. It was an artillery unit. I augmented them as a machine gunner, and went over to Iraq 2006 and 7. During the surge was when I was over there. I was operating in Al-Anbar province out of Al-Taqaddum. We were going down to Ramadi, a little bit in Fallujah and Habaniyah. We operated around there. We did a lot of route security. We did some
Right.
we did some operations in door to door. We did clear some parts of some cities, and we did a couple of HVT targets.
Right.
That one.
So, like when you first went over to Iraq, I mean, was it just like you hit the ground and you're in it, or did you hit the ground and then like get a little?
No, man. So I'll
Get
tell you,
familiar with
when
what was going on, or ease you into it, or what?
yeah. They call it an acclimation training, because I tell you, I landed in Iraq July 1st. Okay.
Right.
Or actually, I landed in Kuwait at 1:28 a.m. in the morning, and the tarmac, where we landed, it was 130 degrees.
Jeez.
Dude,
Man.
you talk about, dude, you will step off and the heat you feel like an iron in your lung. It's crazy. So you have an acclimation period of about 1 week or 2 weeks. We were doing a quick changeover because the people we were relieving had been there for over a year. It was time for them to go home. So we got a few days but the heat, man, you got all that armor on you and everything. And then the heat there, the heat is something incredibly undescribable, man. And you can't drink enough water.
So what's the way to like when you're just going out, to go out on do your deal? I mean, what's the weight of?
So there's a little bit of my gear there, and this is all stripped down. This is my stripped down gear.
Right.
I actually got to keep this because I had a buddy that helped me out. But this is my combat gear here.
So what's the weight of the stuff you're wearing? When you go out to go do your business.
When we're fully operational and the Marines are ready to rock and roll, full magazines, pouches, side sappies, front sappies, weapon and everything, you're probably looking at about an extra 60, maybe an extra 60 pounds.
In 130-degree heat.
Dude, humping wow. like nobody's business, man. That is something that's something you hear about the Indians doing to the cowboys back in the day, stripping them down and making them go through the desert like that. It was hot. I'll tell you, it was a hot one. That's why they're angry over there. It ain't because of religion, it's because they're fucking hot.
Yeah. All right, so you got there, you get acclimated. So, like, when you go out on your first missions, or whatever you want to, I don't know, call missions or,
So
what was that like for you?
I can tell you what the smell was. I can tell you what the breeze was. I can tell you when I farted. I can tell you everything, man. Because I'm telling you, the first time, and we call it going outside the wire. When you leave the compound and you hit that border and you go condition 1 in your weapon and you're ready to rock and roll, it's called leaving the wire. The first time I left the wire, you couldn't sledgehammer a greased BB into my asshole, man. I was puckered up pretty damn tight.
Yeah.
Because we had just had like 3 IED attacks around the base and on our routes. We were going out with real Iraqi security forces. I'd seen them in country, but this was the first time me seeing them in their own country, talking their language, doing their own thing. And I'm telling you, going outside the wire, the first time I went outside the wire was the most hair-raising, intense experience I'd ever had. It's like you can almost count. You can count your breath. You can count your pulse. It was the sensation of knowing that, okay, I've seen this on TV. I've played some video games and things like this, but this is me. This is the real life deal, and I'm right here with men that have been in this. And so when they're hooking and jabbing and they're getting, flinchy, I mean, how do you think the virgin feels? I'm getting my cherry popped, but the very first time I went outside that wire, it changed me as far as your adolescent mind goes away, and all of a sudden you get focused, and the hyper focus that I experienced every time I was outside the wire and going through those, and the hyper focus that you see coming out of the Marines. Right. You see those Marines that cut up and they just have that awesome humor all the time, and then you see them in the midst of this of really what's going to happen here, and I'm telling you, it's a very humbling experience that you are the scaredest, safest person in the world, in my belief, when you're with Marines. I was the scaredest, safest man in the world.
When you first went out, you went out with some experienced guys, and you also had some Iraqi troops with you. So what's
Yep.
the rate? What was the ratio with Americans and Iraqis and also new guys with the?
I think we were Americans. I think the Americans maybe 2-1 on the Iraqi forces,
All
just
right.
because our presence is. We were a new unit, so our presence was going to be heavy to begin with, and plus we were coming in as a new Marine unit. When Army units, when certain units are in areas, the civilian population, the people, they know how they can act with certain types of units.
Right.
When Marines come in, they know the rules are going to change. They know there's going to be certain things that ain't going to fly no more. And so we have to make that presence known immediately, not through a blunt. There's no reason to ever do it through a blunt force or be assholes about it. But there was times where our hand was forced and we did have to be assholes about it. And those are the times that I'll qualify those, those are qualified times. And then there's the times when your hand isn't forced yet you do draw that fist and lay a hammer. Those are the times that you question yourself, and that's when it starts to really hammer into a man.
So the people over there, they kind of know when the Marines are coming, they're about the business.
That's
and they
right.
can tell the difference between the Marines and the Army, and
they can. And I'm not saying that the Army ain't about the business, man. I've seen brother, I've seen some Army. I've seen them clean some plates that I wouldn't even get after, but I've seen them get after it. But yeah, every unit has their own way of running things, and they know that the Army, maybe they're lackadaisical. Maybe we can get closer to their trucks than we can the Marines. But the Marines, they know for a fact, do not bring a vehicle within 100 yards, or we're gonna shoot it up.
Right.
Those things that the certain rules, and yeah, the population knows who's coming and who's going. They're not as naive and ignorant as some people want to believe.
Yeah.
Because man, these guys are actually very smart. They're clever. They're cunning, and man, you really got to watch them. You got to watch them because you think they're butter, but they ain't nothing but margin.
Yeah. I was in the joint with a friend of mine. His son was a military. He was in Afghanistan, and he said that the people were kind of cool, but the guys that were, the Taliban and all them other guys were real pieces of shit, but the people themselves, he was in Iraq also, but he said the people were
man,
cool.
You'd be amazed. And you know what? Those people don't have nothing. And that's what's so crazy. And that's where I find there's such this huge discourse in the way Americans think. These people can have nothing. And I've met good Iraqi people, Afghanistan people. I've met them, and they're good heart. Their hearts are good. Their minds are good. Their hearts are good. Maybe they're not as educated as us and don't have those fancy things, but they're just good people too. And they'll give you everything they have on their back, even though they know they're going to freeze to death, but they'll give it to you. But then you do have those factions and those like the Taliban or them, and you can always tell who they are because they're the standoffish ones who want to give you that snug note. It's like, dude, I don't want to have anything to do with you. I don't ever want to have to raise a weapon to any of y'all. I don't. But that, if you come at me that way, that and you can always tell that when you're talking to groups of people. But it's a lot of this old school Neanderthal thinking that they still have over there, that it's a superiority thing. I mean, over in Iraq, I remember 5 guys in the cab of a bongo truck because there's AC, but all the women and children and girls, not just children, but just the girls and the women, they're in the back with the sheep and all the shit and whatever they're hauling in the back of that truck. I had never seen a woman in Iraq in the cab of a vehicle. Not once did I ever see it.
So how long did it take you, to learn like in a prison yard, when I go out the yard, I could tell when there was tension, I could tell who it's with. Yeah. And so I imagine similar, like, when you go out on your patrols and whatnot, how long did it take you to get the feel for like, hey, this is a bad situation coming up, or this people are acting funny, or?
I'll be honest. I always thought I had the feel. You always think you get that feeling. Man, I was, I would be wrong to say that I ever knew for sure. Yeah. It was always a continuous education for me. Right. But the good sign. But we did pick up signs. There's, so if we went into a village and there's a lot of activity, and they seen us rolling in, because we'd make our presence known before we got there. When we got there, we'd make sure that we're tapping on doors like you're walking into an old barn, making sure you're not going to get a snake, Right. So, we're making sure we're heard. But, I think you always felt it when you would see certain key individuals of that community. You know who are the elders, you know who are the influencers, but when you would start seeing them disappear without ever coming to talk to us, or when you start seeing the streets getting real quiet, and all of a sudden it's just like, man, there was a market here 15 minutes ago, and now there's a few people and a dog. You know, that's a sign that something's not right. You start seeing piles of trash start burning. All of a sudden, somebody needs to burn a tire. I mean, there's certain signs that go on, and certain ways in which people act, because the people know. There's people there that truly know if there's something about to happen in that market or on that road or whatnot, and you can see the way they'll act. They'll bounce around it. They'll start bouncing around those things. So when you start observing those things, and you know who is supposed to be acting like what, when you catch up on that, then you'll start your hair start raising up, and you start putting your back on that wall and looking around.
You know, in 2008, I knew these two correctional officers. They were military. They were active military, like reservists that would go in country, you know, and then come back and get their job back in the prison. And one of them was kind of quiet guy, but both of them always give us a lot of respect, you know. And I've worked around with them in the kitchen a lot, and they were really respectful to us, you know, as prison guards, whatever. I mean, and
we're all men. That's the thing.
Yeah. So I asked them, you know, so you know, one thing inmates do is they talk to cops and try to feel the cop out.
Right.
Because I want to know how far I can go with this cop. How do I get over on him and shit, right? Yeah. So, but anyways, I asked him, you know, so you were in Iraq? He said, yeah, I was in Iraq, and he was in Afghanistan. And I said, hey man, you kill people over there? And he says, yeah, I did. And he told me, you know, that he had killed some women, and some kids got killed over there, you know, that he had been participated. And you know, we talked about it, and so it, you know, it was trauma. It traumatized him a little bit, you know. He told me it. So I just want to ask you, like, you know, war's hell, man. People die. Yeah. So when you first started seeing people get killed and all that kind of shit, I mean, did the Marine Corps training prepare you for that? Or, I mean,
nothing.
What kind of effect did that have on you? You know, I mean, just, you know, however you want to explain that, you know.
I'll tell you, there's nothing in this world. There's not a book. There's nothing in the world that'll prepare you to truly see, at least when I was there, nothing could have ever prepared me to see the horror. Nothing could ever prepare me to see the disgusting ways a human could treat another human.
Right.
Nothing will ever prepare you to see the consequences. You know, it's different. Yeah. Because you go from being a very superior person on this earth to understanding and believing and knowing for a fact that you're nothing but a hunted person on that earth now. And nothing's going to ever prepare you to truly try and understand a man's heart that can do the things that those people could do to each other, or